Good Friday morning to you. Most mornings I like to take my dog for a walk. I love her excitement for our neighborhood. She loves to sniff and figure out what season it is and what's new and exciting in her little doggy mind. And then we come back home and often she has to sit in the backyard and stare at the squirrels. It's a process that Daisy goes through almost every morning and afternoon and in the evening, especially now as we're in the season of spring, or at least we're moving towards spring. The squirrels are quite active, and that captivates Daisy's attention. So the other day, I was standing in the backyard waiting for her and becoming rather impatient because my day has to continue. It cannot completely involve squirrels, although sometimes it feels like it. And I'm standing there very close to my hummingbird feeders, and I hear the chirping, and a hummingbird comes within just 2 or 3 feet of me to its feeder and feeds. I snapped a picture of it, and that is the thumbnail for this devotional. Now, in the last 2 weeks since the ice storm, I haven't seen my hummingbirds all that much. In fact, I was rather worried about them. And yes, I claim my hummingbirds because there's 3 of them that are always at my feeder every day, and I feel sometimes they actually greet me when I'm out with Daisy. But with the ice storm, they weren't there. And I know there's other members of the congregation that I've spoken to that have wildlife in their yards and they haven't returned yet. Wildlife have an amazing instinct, a sense that we as humans, I don't think we fully understand. But I'm sure that when they think it's safe, when they are certain everything is clear, when their food supply is restored, they will return, as did my hummingbirds. I think about that in our life, in our faith practice. Sometimes I think in our faith practice, in our life, we retreat. We get scared. We get worried about the circumstances. Maybe something traumatic or tragic happens and we retreat a bit. We go to a safe place. We isolate. We hunker down. And then, with assurance, with promise, with safety, with the return of what gives us life and breath, we come back. We come back into the glory of God. Now, some might say that that's a poor rhythm of faith. Some might say that that's unfaithfulness. But I really believe that that's a true act of faith. We know that God is always taking care of us. We know that God is always in the midst of every struggle we have in this world. That doesn't mean that our human minds can always make sense of it. And sometimes we need to find a quiet space to just make sure that we're all in check, right? We just have to find a quiet space to make sure that we know who we are and what's going on so that we can truly be in the presence of God. It's not that we think God's not in that quiet space, that protective space. I hope we all know that God's there everywhere. But sometimes what we need to do to reset, to be able to truly put ourselves back into God's presence, to truly welcome the abundance of God fully as we might desire, that's sometimes a process. I was thinking about this and I turned to Lamentations this morning. Yesterday I was visiting with someone in Little Church and they made a quote about a hymn, a song. The quote they gave me was for a different song, but it automatically put in my head the hymn, "Great is thy faithfulness." If you're a traditionalist, I'm sure that just saying those words, you automatically have the lyrics and the melody. Great is thy faithfulness. It's amazing how God is faithful to us. God wants us to be faithful to Him. But more than anything, God is faithful to us. God never leaves us or forsakes us. God never relents on His love for us. If you turn to Lamentations, the 3rd chapter, and really this entire book, and each chapter has so much beauty in it. It's ascribed to the prophet Jeremiah, who wrote Lamentations, it's thought, after the destruction of the temple, after the captivity of Babylon. Jeremiah is speaking into all that is happening for the people, all that they're fearful of. In chapter 3, I'm just going to read verses 22 to 25. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore I will hope in him. The Lord is good to those who wait to him, to the soul that seeks him. We are just 2 weeks out from a storm, and I think today may be the first morning I didn't wake up to chainsaws in my neighborhood. Life is being restored. We are 1 year from when the first COVID was detected in the state of Oregon, and just 2 weeks from when we thought we were pausing just momentarily to flatten the curve. But life has gone on. We read in Isaiah that God says to the people who are held in captivity, plant gardens, marry, take wives, live and thrive according to my will for you, even in a land that was not of theirs, even the land that was not promised to them. Lamentations speaks into that, and like the hummingbird that has returned to my feeder, it is a reminder for each of us. We are moving forward. We're not going back. It's not about going back. Faith compels us to move forward. If you need a moment to hunker down and make sure that you are safe and that you can absorb what God has prepared for you, take that moment and then get up. Go eat. Get ready. Because God is continuing to be at work, to move us in a direction that is much stronger, much better than where we've been before. That's how God works. That's true in the entire biblical narrative. And if it's true for all of God's people, it's true for you and for me. So what is today bringing? As the sun breaks through the clouds and the blue sky, what opportunity is God bringing to you in your life today, for tomorrow, for the next month, for the next year? How are you planting gardens and bearing good fruit according to his purpose for you? How are you restarting life, being renewed by the God whose faithfulness never ceases? I hope you have a great Friday and a great weekend and a great all that is to come.